The Simpson Desert, 176,000 square kilometres of dry, red, sandy dunes, all located in Central Australia. When European settlers began exploring the Simpson in the late 19th century, they believed that no one could live in such a harsh environment. Although after much research, it's believed that Aboriginal people had been living in the Simpson Desert for the past 5,000 years. Formed over millions of years from a changing climate, it's believed the sands of the Simpson were created due to the runoff water from melting glaciers that used to be in the area. This washed in sand, mud and stone, which then formed into sand dunes by the wind over time. This formed the longest parallel sand dunes in the world, starting at around 3 metres in the west and gaining height towards the east, the largest dune standing at 40 metres tall, better known as Big Red. In more recent years, crossing the Simpson Desert has become a bit of a bucket list item for adventurers. Be that adventure riders, four-wheel drivers, or even hikers and cyclists, travelling from all around Australia to complete their own crossing. Well, and then there's me, of course, a guy who wants to explore this country as much as possible with a GoPro strapped to his face. A guy with a sense of adventure and some average riding skills. What could go wrong? I plan to do a crossing of the Simpson from west to east, Mount Dare to Birdsville via the French line and the QAA line. Just under 500 kilometres between the two towns, and I'll be solo and unsupported for the trip. I'll be riding from the Gold Coast, through the outback, across the desert and all the way back again on the faithful DRZ400, completing almost 5,000 kilometres by the time I'm done. I've wanted to do this ride for a few years now, and it's exciting that in a few weeks' time it will become a reality. As always, I'll be filming the trip for my YouTube, so subscribe to the channel. But if you aren't already, be sure to jump onto my Instagram or Facebook and hit the follow buttons there so you can keep up to date on the trip as I'm out on the road. I've done a few mods to the DRZ to get it better suited for the big ride into the outback and across the desert. So in this video, I'll give you a look at all the mods that I've done to the bike and how it's set up. I'll also do a run through of my luggage setup and how I plan to carry my extra fuel, but I'll leave that to a later video. Alright then, let's jump straight into it and see what I've done to the bike.
The main reason I'm out here, guys, is just to give this bike a bit of a shakedown, blow the cobwebs out. Hasn't been seeing the daylight too much since I got the Tenere. But I'll give you a quick look at some of the things I've chucked on here just to get ready for this desert trip, just to make things a bit better for the bike, for me. As I said, suspension, that's the big one I want to get done, and I'm going to get that done shortly. So just out here today to get a bit of a feel for how it is. Obviously I know it's soft, but I just wanted to get back on it, so then when it is done I can feel the difference and know that something's actually been done. But we'll start things off up top here. This right here, the Garmin, I already had this on the Tenere, the actual unit here itself, but I went and bought a new mount and some wiring, and I've hardwired that in there, so once it's on, you can see that there, turns on. The only thing is on the Tenere, it's wired in with the ignition, whereas on this bike it isn't, so I just have to remember to either take it off or turn it off, so I don't drain the battery, but that shouldn't be a problem, fingers crossed. The other thing I've done up here on the dash, I did have a quad lock up here with a USB charger, but it kept breaking. The charger point itself kept breaking. It didn't have a cover, so I've gone and just bought an eBay special, stuck that on there to keep charging, and I've taken the quad lock off, so I've got the GPS now, so there's not really any need for the phone to be up there, so I'm just going to run the Garmin on its own, keep the phone in my pocket, and happy days. So down here on the side of the bike, you'll see here I've wanted these for so long, since getting the Tenere. I can't go without these anymore, but Stag Pegs. So doing plenty of sand riding through the desert, they're going to come in handy for standing up. Even just coming up through here on these tracks now, I've noticed the difference coming up the hills. Keep the legs gripped to the bike, don't use your arms so much, they get a bit of a break. It's nice. And also to go along with that, got some new foot pegs, RHK pegs. They're a bigger footprint compared to the stock ones, and they also sit slightly lower, about 10 mil roughly, so that's better for me with the bar risers, plus that little drop in the pegs, much better for standing. So up on the front of the bike, I've got the Fender bag that I've always had there, but this used to bounce around a fair bit on the Fender, so I've gone and got a brace kit, Fender Brace Kit, and chucked that on there just to stiffen things up a bit, just so it holds the weight of the tools there a bit better, just eliminate the risk of that fender bending or breaking, especially with all corrugations are probably going to hit out that way. It should come in handy. These tyres here, these are the Motos Tractionator Desert HTs, which I love, but I don't think they're going to get me the distance. They'd probably get me there and back, but there won't be much left on them. It's going to be about 5,000 kilometres round trip for this ride, this 2-week trip. So I went and ordered some Motos Adventure. Sorry, the rear is a Motos Adventure Tractionator, and the front's going to be a new Dual Venture. So I'm going to chuck them on the bike shortly as well before the trip. And I've got the Adventure on the Tenere, and it's done, let's say about 5,000 k's, and it's got so much tread left on it anyway, so I think they'll do just fine for the 5,000 kilometre trip to the desert and back. Should be good.
One modification I forgot to mention while out on the tracks was the change of the front sprocket. I've moved to a 15 tooth from the standard 14 tooth, and also added a B&B case saver cover to go along with it. This gives me a gear ratio now of 15:44, making sitting on 100 kilometers an hour much better than when running the stock gearing. This will be a good addition for those long outback stretches.
So yeah, the last piece of the puzzle really is that suspension that I'm going to get done this week, and then I'll try and get out here and test it out again. Ooh, can hear some bikes coming. KTM. KTM crew. But yeah, that suspension, that's the last piece to the puzzle really for the bike. The suspension on these things is really soft, and it's got me by for most things. Like, yeah, you can do it if you want, but I was just going to be a bit worried with all that extra fuel on the back of this bike for a short period. I didn't want it to be too soft. Another Kato. Yeah, I went down there. Go buddy, go. So yeah, that suspension, get that dialed in, should ride much nicer with all that kit on there. And then the tyres, change them over, and we're pretty much good to go. Out on the tracks on the DRZ, just got the suspension tuned up, some new springs and a revalve, and I'm out here to give it a run and see how the difference is. I came out here 2 weeks ago just on the stock suspension, did this same little loop, so it's nice to come out here and just compare. But first impressions, it's feeling good, especially the front fork. I'll shut up for a sec, because this is bumpy. There we go. But yeah, so far so good. Front forks feel great. Rear shock's a bit more stable for my weight at least. So once we chuck all the luggage on, should still hold well and help me carry that extra fuel load across the Simpson. Stock suspension was fine for most of what I've wanted to do. Stock suspension for most areas is just fine. I had it wound up on the rear spring as much as possible, but did the job. But now after riding this for 5 minutes on the tracks, with some properly tuned suspension. I wish I'd done this as soon as I got the bike, so take of that what you will, but I'm loving it. Keep putting along this track before I'm out of breath. Keep testing. Oh, whew, holy shit. Oh man, that is hard with muddy tyres. I don't know how I'll go getting going again here. We're up. Yes. No tyres adventure on the rear. Tick. Plenty of bumps. Test the suspension. So I think I've just got out of all the real snotty stuff out here. Back to a bit of a main road, main trail. First impressions on the suspension, awesome. That was so much better than stock. The front is a massive improvement. The dip under brakes is much better, or much less than what it used to be on the downhills. It would dip a lot and you'd be working hard, but now it's firmed up a lot, which is nice. And the rear spring, much better as well. Perfect for my weight, so obviously it's going to be better, set for my weight, plus gear. Yet to see what it's like with all the bags and stuff like that on there, but I think it'll be much better. This used to, I could just bottom it out with my hand before, but this dips that first little bit and then firms up. So obviously it soaks up all them bumps nice, but doesn't bottom out, doesn't sink too far where it just throws you around. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I wish I'd done it a lot sooner, to be honest, but happy days. Everything else seems to be working well. Stag pegs, awesome. Keep the legs gripped there, so on some of those steep uphills, that's perfect. They'll be perfect for in the sand out in the desert. Standing up for pretty much all of it, so they'll come in handy big time. All the electrics seem to be going well. The Garmin USB, didn't use that out here today, but I know it works. But yeah, everything working as it should. All that's really left to do now is pack it, figure out how I'm gonna load the fuel bladders and the jerry can that I'm taking, how I'm gonna tie it all down. And yeah, apart from that, quick check over on the bike, make sure everything's tip top. I serviced it not long ago, so she should be good. Give her a clean up. I think we're good to go for this trip.
Well, that wraps things up for the mods I've done to get the DRZ ready for the Simpson crossing. I hope you enjoyed taking a look, and if there's anything you think I might be forgetting, let me know down below in the comments. Now it's time to get the big girl all loaded up and ready to go. I'll come back to you shortly with a video on my luggage setup and what I'll be taking with me, so don't forget to subscribe before you go. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this one, guys, and I'll see you all soon.